Hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. This is Kavita Gopalan from Samsung, and today we are going to talk about some advanced features that is available in Gear Watch Designer tool. Mostly we'll be focusing on conditional lines, weather complication, and some gyro effects. We have done series of webinars in the past, and these are some of them which we have listed, and there are many relating to Gear app development. We have also done previous webinar for Gear Watch Designer tool that is describes how the basic functionalities of the tool. So all these webinars are available in the link that is provided in the slide, basically in the samsungdevelopers.com. So let's get started. For those who are new, so these are the series of smart watches that Samsung has released so far. We have almost launched 9 models, and we have more than 8 million plus devices sold in accumulation. And we have one more new watch that will be released end of this year in October. So Gear Watch Designer tool supports the devices that I have highlighted in the slide, from Gear S2, Gear S3, Gear Sport, and it also supports Gear Fit 2 and Gear Fit 2 Pro. So you'll be able to use this Gear Watch Designer tool and create watch faces for all these devices that is available in the market right now. So let's get started with the technical content. So first we are going to see about conditional lines and how to do the 12-hour and 24-hour versions of the watch in the same application. We have received many requests, and we have seen in the past that many developers have published 2 different versions, one supporting 12-hour format and the other one supporting 24-hour format. So to overcome this issue, we heard the feedback from you all, and we have added this feature in the Gear Watch Designer tool. Now you'll be able to create both 12 hours watch face and 24 hours watch face in the same application. So how to do that is you can create 2 digital clock components, one for 24 hours format and one for 12-hour format, and you can place both these components right on top of each other. And you can add conditional lines for 12 hours and 24 hours. And in the layers, you can activate the corresponding layer. You can activate the 12 hours layer in the 12-hour format, and you can activate the 24-hour layer in the 24-hour format component in the timeline window that is available in the bottom of the tool. Same way, you will also be able to support kilometers and miles format as well. So let's see how to do this feature in the actual tool. So I have recorded a video. As you can see in the Gear Watch Designer tool, I have just created a new watch face, added a background, and I added the index. And let us try and add a digital clock component from the component window on the left side of the tool. I'm going to change the name of the component as 24-hour component, because we are going to have 2 digital clock components in the same application. I'm just naming each one corresponding respectively so that I can differentiate both of them. So I have aligned both these digital components right on top of each other, because only one will be showed at any particular time. And in the timeline window below, I'm adding a 12-hour, 24-hour timeline component, and I'm activating these 2 components. This have activated 12-hour component, and I'm going to activate the 24-hour component in the timeline. Now, to make sure it is in the 24-hour component, you can click that particular 24-hour component and change the properties in the properties window. So the capital HHMMSS means it is 24-hour format. As you know, it is the ICU format. And for 12-hour format, I'm selecting small letter H, MM, and A. A represents AM or PM. And you can change the color of the text, and if you want, you can also change it to a different format, a different font format. Here I'm just changing the font for both the digital components to black color. And as you can see in the below timeline, I have activated 12 hours in the 12-hour time zone, and I've activated 24 hours in the 24-hour time zone, and have hidden the other format which is not necessary. So when you try to run this application on the emulator, I'm selecting the 12 hours component. As you can see, when you change the time, it automatically switches and shows you 12-hour time format. And when you switch to 24-hour time format, the digital component, the 24-hour digital component is shown, and the time is being displayed in the 24-hour format. So it is so simple to add and support these two formats in one single application right now. So we suggest you can make use of this feature, which is going to be really helpful. You don't have to maintain two different SKUs for your application just to support these two different time formats. Moving on to the next slide. Next is we are going to talk about the conditional lines and how to add loops in the conditional lines. So conditional lines gives you flexibility to show and hide different components of the watch face at different times. For example, if you can have a sequence of background images, and each of the background images can have sun at a different positions, just to mimic the movement of the sun in the sky. You can add all those sequence of images into your watch face tool, and you can control. You can create a loop for which will change the background based on the time. You can even change it for every second or every minute or every hour, however you want. You can change your own logic. And the loop feature is really handy because if you want to change the background images for the entire 24 hours, it's a very painful process and it takes a lot of time, and it would also require more image resources. To make it easy and to overcome that issue, we have added this loops feature in the GearWatch Designer tool. So in the following example, which I'm going to show you now, I'm just going to use 5 different background images, and I'm going to loop these 5 background images. So I'm going to every hour I'm going to change it to a different background image, and I'm going to loop it through it. So user will be able to see different background images for every hour throughout the day and night. So that is another feature that will be really handy to create your watch face and make it more interesting and dynamic. Let's go and see how to do that in the actual tool. So I'm going to use the same app that I created previously, and I'm going to add another background image, background number 2. I'm adding another background image, background 3. I'm adding another background 4. This will be background number 5. So I have a series of background images, background 1 to background 5. So what I want to do is I want to change the background for every hour. So all you have to do is go to the timeline window and then show one particular background for 1 hour and hide the background for the other hours. As you can see, I'm showing background number 1 at the end of 5th hour, background number 2 just trying to show one particular background for 1 hour and hide the other backgrounds at the same time, so that from a user's perspective, he'll be seeing different backgrounds for each and every hour. And now try working on background number 3, hiding the slots for all the 4 hours except one particular hour which I want to show this particular background. And same way, doing the same thing for background number 2. So this is the sequence. So as you can see, as every hour changes, I'm showing one particular background, and the next hour the background will be changed to a different image. So this, I want to loop this. What you have to do is just select the entire sequence, right click and select the loop option. What this does is it's going to loop this throughout the entire 24-hour time. So that means user will be able to see 5 different backgrounds as every hour passes. It's going to loop once the 5th background is done. It's going to loop through background number 1 to background number 5. And now let's try and run it and see how it works. So, when you change the time, as you can see, for every hour the background image keeps changing. So for 14 hours the background is different background, 16 is different, and 17 is a different background. So that's how you can implement the loops. This is a very simple example. You can use this logic to create your own a fantastic watch face, which has a very beautiful image resources. You can use this loop format to either have a flower bloom into different stages for your entire hour, or you can use sun to position it throughout the day. So imagination is the limit to come up with a good design using this loop. Now moving on to the next component, we're going to see how to create the weather complication. This is another complication that has been added relatively. Relatively new. To create the weather complication, you need to first create your account in Open Weather Map website. It's very easy. You just need to have an email address, and once you confirm your email address, you'll be able to quickly create an account in Open Weather Map website. Once you create an account in the Open Weather Map, there is a button to create an API key. When you click that, it automatically creates and shows you an API key. All you need to do is copy that API key and paste it into your Gearwatch Designer tool and activate it. Once you activate the API key, now your watch face is ready to use the weather data that has been provided by Open Weather Maps application. So they have their own different plans. They also have a free plan and they also have a paid plan. So depending on the usage for your particular watch face, you can create any of the plan. For my sample, I only need basic functionality, so I just created a basic plan, and I'm using that API key for my sample application. Now let's see how to do that in the actual tool. As you can see, this is the Open Weather Map. This is the developer.samsung.com tutorials page. There is a link to open the Open Weather Maps application. When you click that, you'll be redirected to Open Weather Map application. If you are a new user, you can sign up and create your own account. It's very easy and it's very quick to create an account. It just takes 5 minutes. And once you're done, you'll be able to see this particular window in the Open Weather Maps application. There is an API key tab. Click on the API key tab, and as you can see, there is a create button. Once you create a button, you will receive your own API key. This is unique for every application, every account. So just copy the API key, go back to your Gearwatch Designer tool, go to Edit Preferences, click on the APIs tab, and paste the API key in the text box. I have already pasted my API key, and you can click activate button, which is right next to the text box. And there is also an option to specify the frequency, how frequently you want to update the weather data. And you can also create you can also select the location. In order to see the weather data in the emulator, you have to select any location in the map. So there is a browse button. Once you click the browse button, you will be able to select one location from the map that is being displayed. Once you are done, you can click OK, click apply, and then OK. So now we are all ready to use the API key. So let's go to the component window and select the text component. There are multiple weather information that you can add to your watch face application. Right now I'm adding the temperature. As you can see, it is on the Celsius format. You can change to any Celsius or Fahrenheit or other formats by clicking in the properties window. So I have changed it to Fahrenheit, and I'm going to I want to display the name of the city. So there is another text field that you can choose. Just click and drag the text field and place it wherever you want the information to be displayed on your watch face. So in this sample, as you can see, I have selected Sunnyvale, so it's showing Sunnyvale name. You can also add a weather type. Is it raining or is it clear? Is it windy? So this particular component gives you those kind of information. You can click and drag and paste it wherever you want on your watch face. I'm just trying to align it on the same line with the temperature. So let's once I'm done aligning, I want to add more information. Let's click the text component again. I'm going to add humidity. The humidity displays how much the humidity is for this particular location which you have selected in the preferences. And I'm just going to add a normal text field, just a label called humidity, so that it is intuitive for the users to understand what this particular information is. Just going to type humidity in there and place it right below the humidity information. Okay. So we have added 4 weather information. You can also add the time when the information was last updated. If you think it is necessary in your application, just click it, drag and drop to whichever location you think it's looks good for your watch face, and that's pretty much it. So once you create an API key in the Open Weather Map website, you will be able to make use of all these weather information data through your Gear Watch Designer tool, and you'll be able to apply this into your watch face. So it is very simple and very intuitive. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to dynamic watch face. So this has been one of the frequently asked feature. I think many of the designers are really excited to use this feature called the Gyro Effect. So the latest version of the tool 1.5.2 has added more functionality and more features, and it gives you more flexibility to make use of the gyro functionality on the gear device. To use the gyro effect property, you can create dynamic watch faces which changes based on gear watch tilt, position, and angle. So when the watch is tilted on the x-axis or on the y-axis, you will be able to show different effects based on how the watch is tilted. Gyro effect property lets you change the size of the component. You can also change the inner pivot, that is move the object to different positions based on the tilt of the gear watch, or you can also rotate the particular image based on the tilt, and you can also change the opacity. So there are a lot more features added, and which gives you more flexibility to create a very dynamic, functional, attractive watch face. Gyro effects are applied when gear moves between minus 90 degrees to plus 90 degrees, either along the x-axis or along the y-axis. Minus 90 degree on x-axis means that gear is rotated upwards along the x-axis, and plus 90 degree on x-axis means gear is rotated downwards along the x-axis. Same way, minus 90 degree on y-axis means it is rotated to the left on the y-axis. As you can see in the picture to the right, you can see what is the y-axis. So if the gear is rotated to the left of the y-axis, it is minus 90 degree. If it is rotated to the right, it is plus 90 degree. So once you understand this tilt and position, you can apply your own image and change the properties of the gyro effect to create a fantastic dynamic watch face. So this is the property window, how it looks for each of the components which you think you want to apply the gyro effect. So you can enter the value for each property from minus 90 degrees to plus 90 degrees. As you can see, there are three tabs: Gyro XY, Gyro X, and Gyro Y. So in the Gyro X, there are different fields like dimension X and dimension Y, which means for a particular component which you have selected, you can change the dimension, that is the size, from 100% to 90% or 80% or 70%. When the gear is rotated along the x-axis, the image will shrink according to the percentage that you have entered in here. Inner pivot is the pixels, the center position of the image where it is at present, and you have the flexibility to even move the inner pivot from one location to another location depending on the gyro tilt, either gyro X or gyro Y. So the value you enter determines how much the actual value would change with respect to the base value. The base value is where current actually all the components have been placed. The actual value is calculated through linear interpolation. So let's go and see how this actually works in the tool. So I'm going to open a sample application called Fantasy. There are a lot of new samples that are available in the latest 1.5.2 version of the tool. So this is a sample called Fantasy. As you can see in the layers box, there are multiple layers of images that has been used for this particular watch face application. I just want to try and move different layers and show you what is the shooting and all those layers represent, so that you can understand how the image moves when we try to change the gyro property. So this is the shadow right, this is shadow left image, the moon shadow. Just trying to separate all the different layers to give you a good idea of how many layers this particular watch face is using, and so that when we change the gyro property, you will know exactly how that particular property works. So now putting back everything together, so this is how the watch face looks. Let's run and see how they have applied the gyro effect. So as you can see, if you change the gyro X value, the moon is moving from top to bottom, and if you move the gyro Y value, the moon is moving from left to right. Now let's pick a component called the moon. I'm picking this particular moon component, the image, and go to the gyro properties window, and in the gyro X, as you can see, we are changing the pivot values, pivot X, from minus 20 to minus 20 pixels to plus 20 pixels. That means that when the gear device is tilted on its x-axis between minus 90 degrees to plus 90 degrees, the image will move between minus 20 pixels to plus 20 pixels. Same way, we are applying the property for gyro Y as well. We are moving the pivot X from minus 20 pixels to plus 20 pixels. So now if you focus on the image moon, when we change the pixel from when the gear moves between -90 to +90 on x-axis and y-axis, we are moving the image +20 pixels and -20 pixels. Now let's try and change the pivot to move between pivot x and y value to move between -40 pixels and +40 pixels. And I'm going to do the same thing for gyro y, changing it from 20 to 40. That means I want the moon image to move between -40 pixels to +40 pixels. So let's see when we move gyro x value. As you can see, the moon is moving farther top and farther bottom because I have changed the properties to move from -40 pixels instead of 20 pixels. Same way, when you move the gyro x value, moon is moving farther to the left and farther to the right because I have changed the value from 20 pixels to 40 pixels. So it is that easy to change, to apply the gyro effect to your watch face. Similarly, we have applied all the gyro effects for different layers like shadow L, shadow R. This is so we have applied the gyro functionality to most of the layers here for this particular watch face. So this is the shooting image. As you can, there is a shooting star in the image, and we are moving the pivot of this particular image from -15 to +15. Let's try and see how it actually works. As you can see, look at, if you focus on the shooting star image, when we move the x value, it is moving, and when we move the y value, it is moving as well. So we are moving different layers with respect to pivot x and pivot y. That gives you a 3D appearance. So it is very simple to apply your own gyro functionality by moving pivot x and pivot y. And now let's go on to the next feature, where you have the flexibility to even resize the particular component in your watch face, or you can move the particular component from one pixel to a different pixel. And there is also flexibility to rotate a particular object when the gear device is either tilted on its x-axis or y-axis. So changing the dimension is one of the property that is available in the gyro effect properties window. So changing, as the name indicates, changing the dimension means you are actually resizing the image. So when you input a different value, the size of that particular image will change based on the value you have provided in the properties window. And you can also rotate it onto a different angle. That will give you a different look and feel for a particular watch face. Now let us see how it actually works. I'm going to open another application. So this is a different application that one of our designer created. As you can see, there are multiple layers we have used for this particular watch face, and we have some 4 images for which we have applied the gyro effect. Image 10, image 3, image 4. Those are the images for which we have applied gyro functionality. When you run and see it on the emulator, you'll be able to see the object moving back and forth. So what we are actually doing here is we are decreasing the size, and at the same time we are moving the pixels, the pivot from one location to the other location. We have not applied any effects for the gyro Y for this sample. So these are other images which we have not applied any gyro functionality. So let us see. Let us pick one of the component and look at the gyro properties. So this is image 10, for which we have applied gyro effect. Go to gyro X tab. As you can see, we are shrinking the dimension to 80%. From when the gear device is tilted on the x-axis, the image will be mode from 100% to 80% and vice versa. Same way we are also moving the pivot, that is we are moving the image from one location to the other location by simply changing the pivot. Right now here it is 109 pixels and you have not applied anything for gyro Y. So this effect will only appear if the gear is tilted on its x-axis from -90 to +90 degrees. And the two effects that we have applied are changing the dimension and changing the pivot x and y. So when you focus on image 10, the green triangle, as you can see, the size of the image shrinks from 100% to 80% when the gyro moves on its x-axis, but nothing happens when we move the y-axis because we have not applied any effect for the y. Yep. So this gives an illusion as if an object is moving back and forth. Now let's try and change the pivot x to 20 pixels and let's see what happens. I'm running it on the emulator and trying to move it. As you can see, since I have moved the pivot value to a different position, it's moving to a different position, which doesn't look that realistic for this particular sample. So you might have to do some trial and error to make sure the effect looks good depending on what design your watch face is about. So now when I changed back to 109 pixels, it appears as if all the triangles are moving in the same line, farther away from us and coming back towards us. Yeah, so the two functionalities that we have applied is changing the size of the image and changing the pivot. Same way, when you look at the green triangle, the same effect has been applied. We are changing the dimensions from 100% to 80%. So it will move change the size of the image from 80 to 100%, and we are also moving the position of the triangle. When you focus on the green triangle, so it's moving back and forth. It appears as though it's moving back and forth because we are changing the size and also we are changing the pivot x and y. Now there is another property called rotate, as I have mentioned before. Now let's see what happens if we try to rotate this image and change the value to 10. As you can see, the green triangle has been rotated. It appears different than it was before. When the gyro is moving on its x-axis, it is the angle is also rotated. The image size is also changed, and the pivot x and y is also changed. So you have a lot of flexibility to play with the gyro functionality. You can come up with your own design and apply all these effects to make the gyro effect a really cool dynamic watch face for your application. So now let's try. I have another video to show you how the resizing works. So when we pick image 3, and I'm just rotating, changing the rotate property. So this one will rotate the entire green triangle as the gear is tilting on its x-axis. So this example gives you a more clear picture of how the actual rotate property works. As you can see, the green triangle is being rotated, the dimension being changed from 100 to 80%, and also the pixel is changed. So this, I think this would give you a clear picture of how these properties work, both the dimension, the rotation, and also the pivot x and y. So you can use this knowledge and come up with your own watch face, which has gyro functionalities. Cool. Now moving on to the next feature, the depth. You can also provide a depth perception for your watch face by applying this gyro functionality. One example is in this particular image on the right, you can see there are 3 different images. You can create a shadow for the objects which you want to show the depth. in your own design tool like Photoshop or Illustrator or whichever you are comfortable with. And in GWD, place the shadow above the background image and below the watch component, and you can apply the gyro effect, like change the pivot X of this shadow from +5 pixels to -5 pixels. Same way you can also change the pivot Y from +5 to -5. This would actually give you depth perception. All you need to do is create your own shadow image and apply and change the pivot X and pivot Y in the gyro effect. Let's try and see how it actually works. I'm going to open another sample called black and white, which comes along with the tool. You can try it on your own. Let's select the black and white sample. As you can see, there are three circles. In the layer window, you can see there are multiple layers because they are using shadow for all the watch hands, minute hand, second hand, and also they are using different layers for the circles. As you can see, there is 3 circles and there is a shadow. There is a circle image and there is a shadow image for that as well. So when you look at these circles and see how the gyro X works, when we change the gyro X and Y value, so looks like the video got cut off in the middle. I'm sorry about that, but you can try this on your own. So what we are doing here is just have 2 different images for that particular circle, a foreground image and a background image, which gives a shadow effect, and we are applying gyro effect for that shadow image. All we are doing is pick one of the shadow image, like for circle 3, and then change the pivot from +5 to -5. When you look at it, it gives you a depth perception. So there are 3 different circles and 3 different shadows, and when you try it in your own, you'll be able to see how this particular depth perception has been applied. Moving on to the next effect, something called leveler. To add levelers to your watch face, you can create a series of images with a different sequence of sizes, like either they are increasing in size or decreasing in size, as it is shown in the image to the right. And in the GWD, place these images in the order, either from larger to smaller or smaller to larger, however you like. And the gyro effect, you can apply the gyro effect in the gyro functionality properties tab. The bottommost image should have the smallest value for pivot X and Y, and the topmost image should have the highest value for the pivot X and Y. So in this example, we are changing the pivot X and Y from +14 to -14, and for the topmost image, we are changing it from +40 to -40. So this will give you a leveler effect. Let's see how it looks on the actual tool. I'm going to open a sample application, new sample, and give it a name and try to open it. And I'm going to apply one of the new effects that is available in the newest tool. I selected the leveler application, and as you can see, there are a sequence of images that are of different sizes, increasing in size from bigger to smaller. It's been layered according to the sizes. When you go to the gyro effect tab, you can see the properties that we have changed. So for this particular image, we have changed to 100 pixels, and for the next image, we are changing 150 pixels for pivot X and pivot Y. Same way for the image 7, the smallest image, we are changing to 300 pixels, pivot X and Y. So when you apply the gyro effect in this way, it gives you the leveler functionality. As you can see, when you run it and try to change the gyro X value, it moves from left to right. Same way when you move the gyro Y, it moves from top to bottom. So this is one example of how you can show a leveler effect in your watch face. You can create your own design resources and try to apply this particular feature. Moving on to the next effect called parallax effect. So you can also create your own parallax effect in your watch face. As a designer, you would be already familiar with the parallax effect. It is nothing but moving the foreground image and the background image on a different speed, which gives you that particular effect. In this is a sample application that also comes along with the latest tool. In this example, we are using three different images: a tube shadow image, waves image, and a person on the tube image. And we have applied this particular pivot X and pivot Y for all these three images respectively. So we are moving the shadow in a different speed with respect to the blue waves image differently. So this gives the parallax effect. Let's see how it works on the watch. Going to try and open this particular sample. So file, new, select the vacation sample and click OK. In the timeline, the layers component, you'll be able to see different layers that we are using. Apart from the digital clock 1 and 2, we are using three images: the man, the blue line, background lines, and the blue circle. And we are going to move these. We are going to move the blue circle in a different way with respect to the blue shadow, which would give you a parallax effect. Just trying to separate all these images so it helps you understand what are the different images that we are using for this particular sample. And this one is the blue circle. So these are the three main images that we are using in this particular sample to show the parallax effect. And when you go to the gyro effect properties window, for the blue circle, we are changing the pivot Y from plus 10 pixels to minus 10 pixels. Plus 10 to minus 10 for the gyro X, and same way for gyro Y, we are moving it between minus 15 and plus 15 pixels for this particular image. And for the blue line, we are not. For the blue line, we are only changing pivot Y minus 10 to plus 10. And blue circle, we have applied gyro effect as well. And for the man, we are not applying any effect. So only the below two images are going to move, which gives an impression as if the man is moving, which gives a parallax effect. Let's try and see. Let's run it and see how the blue lines and the blue shadow moves when we change the gyro X value. As you can see, when we change the gyro X value, the shadow is moving and also the blue lines are moving. We have not applied any parallax effect for the first image, the man image, but when we have applied X and Y features for the tube as well as the blue lines. So this is one simple example of how you can create your own parallax effect using by simply changing the pivot X and pivot Y values. So it is really simple. All you need to understand is how to change the pivot X and pivot Y, and what is dimension X and dimension Y, and how to change the rotation. And you can also change the opacity. You can create your own sample and try and see how that works. Yeah, so with these simple properties, you'll be able to create a fantastic dynamic watch face which is really attractive for users. In the latest version of the tool 1.5.2, there are a lot of samples that comes along with the tool. As you can, and also there are a lot of ready to use effects that are available in the complication component. As I showed you, leveler is one of the effects. You can use that and swap it with your own image to create a more different effect for your unique watch face. Yeah, the latest version of the tool 1.5.2. When you click File, New, Samples. So these are adventure, black and white, fantasy, fly in the sky, and vacation. Those are all the samples that have already applied gyro effect functionality. You can try it in your own device to understand how the properties have changed and how it actually works. And in the complication, you can see new effects like light effect, leveler, gyro effect, etc. So when you try these samples, this would give you more understanding of how things work, so that you can use this functionality and create your own watch face. So that's pretty much it. So I have a question. Which variant of Samsung smartwatches does this tool support? So it supports all the watches starting from Gear S2. That means Gear S2, Gear S3, Gear Sport, and it also supports Gear Fit and Gear Fit 2 Pro. So using the Gear Watch Designer tool, you'll be able to create watch faces for these devices. Okay, so looks like there are no more questions. I hope this was useful, and we are looking forward to seeing more watch faces with amazing gyro functionality applied. So if you have any questions, you can always create a ticket at samsungdevelopers.com. We are here to help you. Yeah, feel free to create a ticket.